Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. The year 2024 has gotten off with a blast. It's only the third day of the year, and three blasts have evidently set the tone for what will likely be a year of war, not peace. The first of the explosions took place exactly at midnight, January 1st, when Hamas launched a salvo of 30 rockets at Tel Aviv. Thankfully, no one was killed, but it demonstrated in the starkest terms that Hamas, despite its territory being overrun by the Israeli army and its commanders being relegated to underground tunnels and bunkers because of the Israeli Air Force's bombing campaign, is still able to launch salvos of rockets into Israeli territory almost with impunity. And, in rather apropos fashion, the second blast took place on the second day of the year when allegedly a drone operated by the Israeli Air Force launched a precision-guided rocket into a third-story apartment in southern Beirut, killing not only the third man in seniority among Hamas's leaders, Salah al-Arouri, but the entire leadership of Hamas's Lebanese branch. The significance of this second explosion can't be overstated. Firstly, the group of 5 Hamas officials were responsible for the launching of several rocket barrages at northern Israel from Lebanese territory. Secondly, their elimination took place in the Hezbollah stronghold of Dahiyeh in the southern suburbs of Beirut. This is where Hezbollah itself is headquartered, and this bold attack, which was obviously aided by first-class intelligence gathering on the ground, demonstrates to Hezbollah's leadership that they too are vulnerable. Thirdly, al-Arouri, the most senior of those killed in the blast, was responsible for directing Hamas's terror activity on the West Bank. He also aimed to ultimately depose the Palestinian Authority's rule of the West Bank, replacing it with Hamas, just as Hamas succeeded to do in the Gaza Strip back in 2007. Fourthly, back in August, before this war started, Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah threatened that his organization would act decisively should Israel carry out any assassinations on its territory without regard to whether the target is Lebanese, Palestinian, or Iranian. Israel's assassination of Hamas's Lebanese branch, which enjoyed the hospitality of Hezbollah in Beirut, now stands to test whether Nasrallah is going to make good on his prior threat. Lastly, the third and final explosion of this series of explosions took place today, on the third day of the year. This blast was comprised of a large bomb that was detonated by remote control by the grave of Qasem Soleimani. You may recall that Soleimani was general over Iran's Islamic Revolution Guard Corps, who was responsible for killing countless Americans and Israelis. He was killed by an American operation directed by then-President Donald Trump on January 3, 2020. Today's bombing by his graveside, therefore, took place on the third anniversary of his death. It's been suggested by Israeli observers that al-Qaeda is responsible for this blast, which so far has killed 190 people. Why al-Qaeda? Because Soleimani played a leading role in waging war against them also in Syria and Iraq. It's part of the ongoing civil war between Shiite Iran and Sunni Islam, represented by al-Qaeda. It's believed that the intended target of today's blast were senior Iranian generals who were scheduled to attend Soleimani's graveside on this anniversary of his killing. It's been reported that the bomb didn't kill this intended target, but only 190 devotees of Soleimani among Iranian civilians who also made the pilgrimage to his grave today to mark the occasion of his passing. Now, on a final note before closing this episode, I wanted to mention that Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, left his underground bunker back in that Hezbollah stronghold in the southern suburbs of Beirut that I had mentioned earlier in order to travel to Baalbek on Lebanon's border with Syria, where he was scheduled to make a speech today. Now, Israel knows exactly where he is at all times and could take him out at any time of its choosing, But Israel is unlikely to do so. Why? Because better is the devil that you know than the one that you don't know. Nasrallah himself came to power when Israel assassinated his predecessor back in 1992 and has proven himself to be far more talented than this predecessor was. Israel also feels that Nasrallah has become wiser over the years, especially since its last full-fledged war with Hezbollah in 2006. Since then, Nasrallah has avoided crossing certain red lines that would cause Israel to respond by leveling Beirut and destroying his organization, which is not interested in such a cataclysmic showdown with Israel until at least Iran acquires nuclear weapons, which would provide for Hezbollah an umbrella under which it could act with impunity, at least in its mind. Well, guys, that brings this first episode of this new year to a close. I just want to end by saying that I found out today, unfortunately, that I probably lost most, if not all, of my spring guiding season. It was a given that I would lose my fall season owing to the war, but it looks like it's spilled over into the spring season, and I'm starting to lose a lot of my groups, if not all of them, that were scheduled for this spring. And therefore, I just want to remind you that if you want to partner with me financially throughout this difficult time, as I'm making these videos, and I remind you that these videos are for free, I'll continue to upload them as a public service. But if you want to treat Steve the Tour Guide to an equivalent of a cup of coffee per month, you can do so via the links that I provide below this video via Patreon and PayPal. It's much appreciated, as Steve the Tour Guide still needs to make a living. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining me, and be vigilant, and I wish you a peaceful, healthy, and successful 2024. And I'll see you for the next episode in just a day or two. Bye-bye.